All right, so now we are up to 5:30, so I'll call this meeting to order. Roll call. Council at Large Cummins. At Large Poston.
Here.
Council Ward number 1 Hembry. Ward number 2 Helm.
Here.
And Ward number 3 McNeil.
Here. All right, to the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. The agenda approval, if there are no changes, is there a motion to approve? Cummins with the first, and McNeil with the second.
McNeil.
Yes.
Helm.
Yes.
Hembry.
Yes.
Poston.
Yes.
Cummins.
All right, so that brings us down to communications. This part of the meeting is for anyone to address the council. Make your way to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Seeing that there are none, I'll close that portion of the meeting and we'll move down to the consent agenda. And these can be enacted with one motion, and is the approval of the council meeting minutes from February 28th, approval of the investment treasurer's report from February of 22, approval of the library minutes from January 17th, approval of the library director's report from January of 22, and approval of the development director's report from February of 22, approval of a garbage exemption at 519 Cedar Street, Apartment 1, approval of a mini excavator purchase, the approval of the proposal to replace budgeted computer equipment, and also the approval of claims register, which includes claims paid under current purchase policy. Do any of these need to be pulled out individually? Seeing there are none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Cummins with the first. Second. And McNeil with the second.
Helm.
Yes.
Hembry.
Yes.
Poston.
Yes.
Cummins. McNeil.
Yes. All right, that takes us down to city business. And the first one is a resolution stating the city of Tipton's support for the 4th Street Plaza project while authorizing the city's application to the IDNR's Land and Water Conservation Fund grant program. We do have Patrick Pierce online from CRS to help with the presentation.
Yeah,
Mr. Wagner?
the way the motion is, or the resolution is set up, the timing of it being on here tonight is because this grant application is due on March 15th. So this is the last available regular council meeting before that. This, for our size city, would have a maximum award of $75,000. It could be slightly less than that, but $75,000 is the amount for our size. We already have 2 other grants, which together are $29,000 for this project. The goal of tonight was to try to get the project down to a budget cost of $240,000. So if successful on this grant application, we would be looking at $140,000. Now, if you'll recall from when we presented this last November, the idea was then we would take a portion out of local option sales tax each year. So over a 10-year period, we're talking 14 or 15,000 out of what is in total much more than that. There's more to say about it, of course, and I hope that we can go through the presentation and sort of remember why we were looking at doing this project. I'm aware of comments that go to the safety of the site. We've tried to address that. One of the ideas was to relocate the project to the park. If we did that, we would basically have to go back to the places that we have grant agreements with and rescind them, because we didn't apply to do this anywhere else but the downtown. We had certain goals in mind, and to tell you the truth, the concern that I became aware of yesterday was the first time I'd heard about it. Lisa and I had talked about the site, and we incorporated her ideas as I understood them. The first time she told them to me, looking back, was early last November, and that was to flip the splash pad to the west side of the lot, and then along the way, move the entry from the corner at Cedar and Fourth more to the west, so it isn't at the corner. And then we also talked to CRS about having a more child-proof entry, gate area. So anyway, I'm hoping that we can let CRS do their presentation. I've also asked Linda. Linda, would you mind coming up so that you can better face, address the council when there's an opportunity? To talk a little bit about why this is of interest and why it's part of our overall downtown strategy. So with that, Patrick, do you want to take it from here?
I definitely can. I've got a presentation put together, and it's a little different than what we've gone through before, but it's going to hit on a lot of the designs and how we got to where we're at currently with the project. And then I can talk above and beyond about whatever you guys want to discuss at that point. With me on the call, we also have Cole Moeller, who is our new Iowa rep for CRS. So he's actually based out of Iowa City. I started this project, I believe, in July of 2020. And it was myself and then Ryan Hartberg, who is also on the call today from CRS. So you got three of us here. And yeah, we're here to give the presentation, talk about it, answer any questions you guys have, address any concerns, and just best figure out what the city wants going forward as far as what do you want the project to be. If you want it flipped around, if you want it relocated, we can obviously work through all those things. But I also wanted to give you a high level view of who CRS is, who we are, what we do. I don't think a lot of you know us much, other than maybe one call that I chimed in on. That was a council meeting again previously in November. So with that, unless Linda wants to speak quickly, I will dive into my presentation. I do need somebody to make me a presenter because I can't share my screen currently.
Can we connect?
We don't have a cable.
Yeah. We can.
I'm getting out of the way.
You.
1 second, Patrick.
Yeah, no worries, no worries.
By 1 second, I mean probably a couple minutes.
That's fine, that's fine.
Linda, yes.
Take over the field that I will answer any questions too. So in the
Chair.
correct. There are many pieces to a puzzle.
But when the Russians invaded Ukraine on February 24th.
And so one of the puzzle pieces is our downtown. And what we can do to enhance the downtown. A comment that I do hear a lot is what can you do for our young people? I hear that a lot. And a number of years ago, probably 2 years ago, the city did send out a survey to the community asking what maybe ideas.
The city was involved, was asked.
Yes, yes.
Okay, that's one of my main questions.
Yes, and so we sent out a survey. And then with that survey, we also set up a small committee. And a lot of the committee members, and I can remember two offhand, but we're younger people to see what their vision was for the town. And that's actually how the splash pad was born, was that. So just to give you a little, we're backpedaling just a little bit. So one thing that I look at with our downtown is how we can fit puzzle pieces together. What other amenities can we do in our downtown? We're working very hard right now on our upper housing. And so a great amenity would be the screen space. And that's something that we also put in grants. Our murals, we've got 2, we're probably gonna have 2 by the end of the summer. That gets foot traffic downtown. And the Freedom Rock has brought a lot of foot traffic too. So we are getting things downtown, and the purpose is our economy in the downtown. That's the objective that we're looking at. What can we do that we are unique? What can we do that we are unique in this community? And that was a unique idea in our downtown district. And so parking probably, I know, is an issue, but parking also, when you have a lack of parking, we need to like also look at what other objectives we could do for parking. But parking means when we don't have it, there is growth. There's growth. And that's a good thing. It's a bad thing, but it's a good thing. And how can we then help with parking? So those are things that we can discuss too. You know, I think by flipping the splash pad to the west end is a smart option, because our objective is safety. And our objective is for young families to have a place to take their young children. A splash pad isn't like a swimming pool or an egress entry into a swimming pool. It's a smaller area that, yes, children can get wet. I have gone to the Dairy Queen and kids have come straight from the pool. They're wet. You know, I have gone to Subway, children that have been at the pool, they're wet. You know what that's showing me? That's showing me that they are using our facilities and they're enjoying themselves. And so our objective is, what can we do to make us unique downtown? And how can we make this safe? And I want to see growth. I want to see growth in our community. And we are lucky that Highway 38, lucky, it's a perk. And then sometimes, you know, when I'm trying to cross the highway, it's not so much a perk. But we are lucky that Highway 38 goes right down smack the center of our community. And what does that do? That shows people the eyes of what's going on in our downtown. And I just talked to a gentleman, another business in another community, and he said that they had come to the downtown a couple of weeks ago, and they were in Iowa City. They decided that they wanted to check Tipton out. And he said, Linda, your downtown is really turning out to be something very nice. And he says it's like historical. It's very historical. And they ate and they went into our stores. He said, love your music. He says, that made me want to shop. And I'm like, well, that was the objective of our music. And so we're just trying to think, what amenities can we give not only the citizens of our community that they ask for, but also invite other people from other communities? And how can we get families so they want to maybe live in our community and go to school in our community, shop in our community, pay taxes in our community for growth. And so those are some of the things that I've been looking at for a couple of years. I mean, this just didn't happen.
Yeah.
We've been working on this for a couple of years.
All the things we're doing have people involved. For example, we would have less congestion if we didn't do anything to help the Rhinos project. We would have a lot less congestion if we didn't work toward having the Hardacre reopen. We're trying to do projects in the south end of Main Street that will also have people here, and probably as they're waiting for service, they're going to spend money downtown. I think, you know, we're talking about Lost and Lost paying back whatever grants don't pay for. I think lost income is going to go up because people are coming to the downtown because we have a diversity of things to be interested in. Yeah, we could make it less interesting and it's more static, but we were trying to make it more interactive and give it some feature that we thought would bring people back, but bring them back on a repeated basis. That's what we were hoping for in this project anyway. Do you have anything else you want to cover? I kind of jumped in. Does anybody have questions for Linda?
Yeah. Anybody has any questions or listen to the presentation?
All right, Patrick, I believe you are up.
I'm gonna
Or hold on.
get out of the way.
Yep. Just got to make me a presenter and then I'll be good to go.
There you go.
You are.
Perfect. There we go. Share. Let me know if everybody is seeing this.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So again, this is what we would call our CRS 101 presentation. This is going to give you a really high level look into CRS, who we are, what we do, and then I will dive into the 4th Street project. We can talk about that and talk about some different concepts that we worked through on the project. So starting off, here we go. All right. This is something that really spoke to me when I first came on to CRS. So I've been with CRS about 3 years now. And the last line of this, laughter is the sound of success. I come from an engineering firm in Omaha. I put in multiple playground projects, splash pad projects, recreation-based projects in my former job. And that really struck a chord with me because when I was putting in these amenities for the community, and I would go out to opening day and you have that ribbon cutting ceremony and you have all the people coming to enjoy your hard work essentially. And you hear those kids laughing, screaming, crying, anything, a mixture of all three. You know you got it right, and you know they're having a blast, and you know that everybody that put in time and effort to get that project done is very proud of what they put out there. And you've given something back to the community that they can enjoy for hopefully the next 30, 40, 50 years. So that's something I always like to lead off with. Is this is kind of something that we kind of live by, is laughter is the sound of success. And if you guys move forward with this project or anything similar to it, and you come out on that opening day and hear the kids running around laughing and having a good time, you'll know you did something great for your community. So getting into who we are. The 2 gentlemen here on the right side are Ron Romans and Rich Wills. They are the founders of our company. Ron Romans got his start in the industry through Rave Sports. Rave Sports invented the floating trampoline. If you've ever seen those on lakes, they're blue and yellow striped typically. That's how he got into it. The reason he started CRS was because he wanted to give a more diverse offering to his clients. He didn't want to just offer trampolines. He wanted to get into splash pads, playgrounds. He knew there was more to it than just offering one product, and having a full line was something that he really worked towards, and that's where CRS is today. We have a full line of offerings, which I'll run through quickly so you guys can kind of see where we're at on that. So just some things of why people like to work with CRS in general. Our planning and design, we do have in-house landscape architects. There's 2 of them on staff that can do designs. I believe most of you have seen the designs that we have put together for this project. That all came through our landscape architect staff. We did all that to help you guys get off the ground, give you an idea, give you a visual, and give you something to really plan towards. Now, not to say that can't change down the road, but it was definitely a good starting point for us. This is an example of a project we did in Indiana where you started with a blank piece of ground and then a conceptual design, and this actually got implemented. So this is a camp, YMCA camp, that can no longer use an adjacent lake, so they built a man-made lake. So we helped them build a man-made lake for their camp and put in all kinds of amenities and features for them to use with this camp. Getting into some of our other offerings, installation and service. So that's one thing we do in-house. We do use subcontractors at times if we have to, but we do also have our own in-house installation team that can do full installs, takedown, maintenance, repair, and anything of the sorts going into a project or at the end of a project or going forward as the project continues to be worked on over the years. We have 2 different divisions, a product division and a project division. Myself, Cole, and Ryan are all part of the project division. We are basically land-based amenities. So that would be playground, splash pads, shade, shelter site amenities, athletic facilities, kind of anything in that realm. Getting into the product division, this is going to be more water-based and camp-focused projects. So you can see everything here is going to be out on water with the floating wibbits and different inflatables. So that's something that the product division primarily focuses on, stand-up paddle boards, things like that. Again, a little bit about us. We're a little bit larger than your traditional design or vendor or rep firm. We have about 35 full-time sales staff at this point, and that includes design team, and as well as our inside sales staff that helps support all of us that are out, working in our respective areas. to make sure that we have enough people with hands-on in each project to make sure that we can serve our clients appropriately and not having to rely on 1 or 2 people to get everything done for you guys. So we do have a pretty wide array of individuals that can help on our projects to make sure that you guys are served well going forward. This is just a breakdown of some of our territories and specifically our satellite offices. So I'm out of the Omaha, Nebraska office. Again, Cole is out of the Iowa City office. Ryan is based in home office, which is Madison, Wisconsin. We also have another gentleman named Jeff Cornea. He is out of the Minneapolis office. And then we have New Jersey, which is kind of random and one-off, but that was because Rich Wills, who was one of the founders again, he is from New Jersey, currently lives in New Jersey, so he set up an office there. We do also work in both of the Dakotas and Illinois at times. So we have a pretty big expanse when it comes to the central upper United States. Getting into CRS Solutions, these are a number of the different brands that we offer, from playgrounds to splash pads and a number of other things, shade, lightning detection, things like that. I'm going to buzz through these really quick. Again, these are just getting a little deeper into the different solutions we have. So various aquatic solutions, splash pads, elevations, pool slides. This is going to be some of the water-based stuff that we offer. Again, some of the land-based, from playgrounds to shade and shelter. We also do mini golf courses. That's one thing that we also do differently. We offer full turnkey mini golf courses from design all the way through construction, as well as disc golf. Getting into the athletic facilities, dog parks, site furnishings, and then different safety solutions on projects. At this point, I'm going to dive into the architectural support and kind of what Brian Demink has done for you guys at this point to get some of these plans off the ground and just show you some of his capabilities. So again, this is Brian Demink. He is our in-house landscape architect. Apart from him, we have another gal that we've hired in the last 6 months or so named Stephanie. And so we now have 2 landscape architects on staff. Again, both of them are very capable of doing full master planning all the way down to construction documents and things like that for communities. So this is an example of something he done. This is for Rome, Wisconsin on the right side. This is a full master plan. So he put together a full master plan for this community that had a blank space, didn't really know what to do with it. And so we actually went in, helped them do a bubble diagram and worked them through this process to kind of get them an overall working plan of what they can do with their space and how they can use it going forward. This is getting into some of the different layouts when you're getting into technical documents. So again, spray zone layouts for splash pads, use zone layouts for playgrounds. So this is making sure that everything's going to fit inside your space and that we have all the safety requirements required for spacing and everything that goes along with that. High quality renderings. Again, splash pads on the left, playgrounds on the right. And then these are going to be some of the fly-throughs that we offer. We have not done a fly-through on this project yet, but we can definitely do that, whether it be in the space it is or if it gets relocated. It just gives a really nice view of the overall project. So I'll let this run through. We have 2 different ones I'll show you here. This is more of a park-based project. The second one is more of an aquatic center. So it just gives you a really good view of kind of everything moves around, gives you different angles of what the project's going to look like potentially on site. Can give you that full 360 view of everything there and kind of give you a good idea of what all you would be incorporating into your project. This is a dog park right here that we're highlighting. And then moving on to this one, this is an aquatic center in North Dakota. They were looking to add a splash pad to an existing aquatic center. So again, the lazy river, the pool, the slides, all the tables, those are already existing. And then it was just a splash pad in the upper corner that they were looking to add. So we did a fly through for them to help them really show and visualize what it could be. These are the actual features that we put into our design. So you can actually see what the features would look like with some of the spray coming off of them to really paint a good picture for that community. And getting into some of the other technical drawings, piping and electrical schematics. So that comes with any splash pad that we offer on our projects, as well as the installation drawings. So we put all that together and kind of bundle it and package it for you guys. Installation and technical services. Again, we have an in-house install team. Tyler Welsh is out of our Madison office. David Reichelderfer is also out of Madison, but he travels the nation doing installs of our inflatables and also takedowns. John Wills is our lightning detection sort of specialist that he goes around the country servicing lightning detection systems, putting them in, all that good stuff to make sure people are nice and safe in their big park districts. through the use of the lightning detection that we offer. We do have a few others that we've hired on recently. So this is not just the limitation of our install staff. It is a little bit bigger than this. Most of those are just going to be technicians that are working underneath these people to help get our projects done. All of our in-house installers are certified by our various organizations. So Play and Park for playgrounds, they're certified in that. Vortex for splash pads, they're certified in that. So we send them off to training every few years, make sure that they stay up on current techniques and install certifications to make sure that we're getting everything done right by our clients. Now I'll get into your actual project. So again, this project started in July of 2020 was our first initial site meeting. Myself and Ryan Hartberg drove over to Tipton. We went through what we thought was a great idea at the time. And I think the initial goal on this was to have a gathering space downtown for people and potentially incorporating some type of a water feature. And I think when we first started this, we even considered it more of a water feature. At the end of the day, it is technically a splash pad in that kids can use it, kids can play in it. It's not just a fountain, but I think its intention is more to have a nice visual appeal and also have multi-function use coming out of it rather than just, this is a splash pad, this is intended just for kids and nobody else. With the incorporation of lights and things like that into it, it made it more of a nice plaza style. So in the evening hours when the children are in bed, the adults can come downtown and they can enjoy the feature as well. And they can just sit by it and it would at that point act like a fountain, have some lighting integrated into it and really give you a nice amenity to sit by. So Brian DeMink, again, our landscape architect, started with these two versions that he just did on a piece of paper. He just hand sketched it. We gave him the general space. We said, this is, the potential intent for it. What are your thoughts? So he came up with these two very different diagrams. The first one on the top being sort of an octopus shape where all the features kind of drain to the middle. And then you have some seating on the right-hand side. And then on the left-hand side would be a shaded area and potentially a spot for a food truck. That was one thing that either Brian or Linda brought to our attention when we first met with them, was that you guys bring in food trucks, or at least you had in the past, bring in food trucks to town and kind of have them park down there so that you can enjoy it and have a nice space to hang out. So we thought that integrating an actual parking spot for the food truck would be a really good idea to get them off of your angled parking there, get them to a dedicated spot where they can hook up and serve food right there next to a seating area. The second option was actually kind of an elevated deck, if you will, where you could have a band playing or you could put seating up there. So a very different feel, very different look. It takes up more of the space of the plaza area. That's how we started. From there, after we got a bit of feedback, we then started breaking up the space to kind of show how it all was going to lay out in there. Specifically, you had seating next to the highway, a potential water feature in this kind of blue shaded area. The brown area where the tree was just going to either stay grass or go to some type of turf. Again, a nice place for people to stay, sit, and hang out. And then the last one going further down would be a shaded seating area adjacent to the food truck parking that would be off of the alley. So that would not be in the alley. It would actually be pushed back from it. So they would not be blocking that by any means. This is kind of how we sectioned it out, and this was just to give you spatial, basically, awareness of where we can put different things. And again, this can be moved around, this can be shifted, but again, it just gave us a good idea of what we could potentially do here. From this, we then went to the overall working rendering. So with this rendering, we have now moved the seating away from the highway, put it down on the other side. We've also integrated a restroom building potentially with this, the splash pad and everything that goes along with that. You'll also see from this design where you have the brick columns on the fencing, we have taken out the brick columns in this next one just to kind of help value engineer it and bring that cost down some. The thought on the restroom building was, for the initial upfront cost, we probably could not do the restroom building, but we would stub in all the utilities so that could be done down the road as a future addition. So that was another thought of a way to value engineer this and save this. Again, getting into the logistics of how it gets installed, flip-flopping the site, things like that, that can all be done. That's all something that we could work through if the council or the city is in agreement that is not the best location for the splash pad. In our experience and in our many years of doing this, we find that rarely do you find a child using this type of water feature or a splash pad running away from it and running out into a street. They're typically going to want to be in the water and staying in the water and not running out of the area. Now, another thing we could do and we thought about was, instead of having the entrance be here at the corner, was putting it on the side street. So putting it actually on 4th Street and have the entrance exit be a side entrance rather than kind of at the end. I think that would also help deter children from potentially running out in the highway. Again, you can use gates, you can use a number of different things to help keep people in. It's probably not the cleanest look, not the nicest look, but it's something that could be integrated to give people that safety feeling, if that's something that the city desires. Again, we still have the shading area down here on the far end, and then the food truck past that. But like I said, not to say any of this can be flipped around. We can move it all around. That's not a big deal. I think Brian mentioned this before. I think tonight is just getting the approval to apply for the land and water conservation. We've also had our in-house grant writer, I'm sorry, not in-house, a subcontracted grant writer that is working with them to get the grant applied for. I know last year you guys went for the grant, you barely missed it. So that's another service that we're offering you at this time, is to just help you get the money, help you get the grant writing done, and help you get it off the ground. And then lastly would be how the project gets done, whether it be design build or having an engineer design it. I know that there was something brought to the meeting a few weeks ago for having an engineer just totally design the project, which I think everybody thought that kind of threw off the budget, if you will. If you went to an RFP and did a design build, I think that's a way that you could get off of some of those engineering fees and reduce those to get the project done. Engineering fees, obviously, engineers are great. They do great work. They put together good designs, but at the end of the day, they can get expensive and they can take away from the budget of an overall project. So if you did a design build RFP, we believe that we could find an engineer to do some type of design work, much more minimal, much more easy on the budget, and get the whole thing done closer for that 240,000, which I think was kind of the initial goal that we had most recently discussed, if you will. That's it. That's all I have. Ryan, did you want to chime in on anything? Does anybody have questions for us at this time?
Can you talk about some of the ideas to get it down to the 240 range?
Well, the big thing would be cutting down on your consulting fees, and then potentially just doing some phasing on the project itself. So I think for the 240 at this point, and honestly, the market has gone crazy, and I think everybody knows that the market's gone crazy for everything you do. I mean, I know literally gas prices jumped 20 cents in 24 hours the other day, so it is what it is. But phasing some of the stuff in, initially putting in maybe the shaded area with the seating area and the splash pad, or I'm sorry, the water feature. I think those things could be easily done for 240,000. When you get into some of the other logistics of potentially having turf there rather than grass, the idea to do turf was A, it would prevent a muddy mess around the water feature, but B, it would also have no maintenance going forward. So you're not having to get mowers in there to mow around when people are supposed to be enjoying this area. But you could phase the turf and do that at a later time and just put it to grass initially. So there's multiple ways, I think, of doing this and getting it done where you can kind of value engineer it, but get the overall project done, get the bulk of it done up front, and have a nice amenity for you guys to use going forward.
Now, on the RFP and the issuance, I think we had talked about, if the council wants to go ahead and apply for this grant, nothing has to be done until we see the results of the grant.
Yeah, that is correct. That is correct.
Yeah. Now, we would have the application with a revised budget and whatever else is required, but as far as issuing the actual RFP or request for proposals, wouldn't have to design that and issue it until after we know where that grant is. Is that the case?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's correct. So everything can be done on your timeline as far as if you get the grant, when you get the grant, all that good stuff. At that point, you can also make the determination of, okay, we got the grant. Maybe we don't want to do an RFP. Maybe we want to have the engineer design the whole thing and get that done. That's completely up to you all. Nothing is set in stone with this project at all at this point. We're still very much in a very preliminary stage and can work around a lot of the aspects with you all as a community.
Yeah, and just, just to talk a little bit about, there was a comparison between an annual event across the street and some spectators kind of getting out into the street or into the parking area. This project has always had a fence around it. I mean, we may have varied the fence a little bit over time, but it's always been fenced on the perimeter. And we've been talking in terms of trying to make any entry or exit area more safe by relocating it, redesigning it, and trying to address those concerns.
Yeah, that's correct. Does anybody have questions for us specifically to the project, thoughts, anything? I'm happy to address anything while we're here.
So throughout this process, we've referred to this as a splash pad.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's a misnomer or not, but in my head, as I've been thinking about this recently, I think of splash pads as the ones like you showed with the aerials and the elevations and stuff.
That's correct.
The actual water feature in this would be nothing like that, correct?
It would be nothing like that. So with this water feature, everything is going to be ground sprays. You're going to have no vertical components whatsoever. So you're not going to have any big buckets or anything crazy dumping on kids. It's all going to be ground sprays. And then again, we'd have the LED integrated lighting with the splash pad as well, or with the water features. So that way at night, you get that sort of a fountain feel more than just water that sprays. It becomes a very different feel at that time where you can do those multiple uses for it. And I think I even mentioned to Brian and Linda before when we were working through this, we can program that to run as a fountain to where the water will just turn on and it will just run at night from whatever time you want it to run from. Obviously, this is going to be summer months when this thing's operational, so you can have it kicked on at 9:30 p.m. and run until 10:30. You can have it run until 11:30. That's completely up to you all, and you would have the say-so of how long it runs. But again, it just gives a nice place for people to gather. As I believe that was the initial intent for this, was you don't currently have a great gathering space downtown. And I would agree with what Linda said earlier, that you have a great downtown space. You definitely do, but you don't have a place for people to go grab food, coffee, whatever it is, and go sit and be a community, spend time together. That's one thing that's huge about CRS. Is one of our main goals is to get people out and get them gathering, especially after COVID and the pandemic and everybody got forced inside. We want to get everybody back outside and enjoy the community together.
As small as this space is, you could fit everything in that space right there?
100%, absolutely.
What about the seating? How much seating is there?
The seating, I believe underneath the shade itself, we were thinking at least 4 tables, which would be 4 tops. So there's 16 people right there with seating. And then you've got the space in between the water feature and that seating area, which I believe had some additional tables. So I haven't run the exact numbers to how many people you can seat there, but it's got to be anywhere from probably 30 plus would be my guess. Easily you could have seated down there. And obviously you can bring tables, I'm sorry, folding chairs and things like that, and there's going to be plenty of space to set up for those.
There's limestone seating along the water feature, as well as some benches toward the road as well. So yeah, it's kind of, I guess, up to you all a little bit, but there's options for quite a bit of seating. I also just wanted to add, this is Ryan Hartberg from our main office in Verona, that we don't have a horse in this race, that we're here to serve your community. We're not by any means trying to convince anybody to do this project as it is or at all. We were asked to come in and provide our expertise. We were given a goal that Patrick stated on the very first slide of the very first rendering, that the city was looking to have a gathering space in the downtown area. And so we did our best to use our experience to provide an idea of what that could look like, or there's actually a couple ideas on a napkin. But if the goal has changed, or just the design needs to change, we're fine with that. We're here to serve the community. We're here to help you achieve your city goals. We're not to serve our own goals. We don't have any goals other than to serve your city goals. So I just want to make sure that that's really clear. We're not offended in any way if you don't like it. We're not offended if you want to change it. We're here to work for you. We've done quite a bit of work for the committee over the last couple of years, or year and a half. I think to date we've charged exactly $0 on this, which I hope shows that we just love what we do. We love the idea of bringing recreation and communities together. We hope at some point that we'll be able to help you install something, but if it's not the right time or the right space or the right solutions, we're pretty flexible.
All right.
Any council comments or questions?
I think it helps to describe it as a water feature as opposed to a splash pad.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like a lot of the community is getting wind of this, and I truly believe, I could be wrong, but I really honestly believe that in their head, they're picturing things coming out of the ground, and they're picturing perhaps a bucket, or I just think they're picturing something closer to what is already at the aquatic center. You know, they've already got a small area where a kid can go and slide down a slide or whatever. And I think that's what people are picturing. I could be wrong, but I think that's what they're envisioning. So I think it helps to call it a water feature.
Having the entrance not on the main drag either.
Yeah.
I
that's
don't think that would be a good idea.
Anybody else? You're
You
giggling.
know, I got it.
Yeah, well, and this is the spot for it.
Big up.
For all the money we've spent and what the money we spend of the taxpayers, why can't we give them something back? That's kind of where I'm at. We've done a lot of expenditures for certain entities, individuals, property owners, and so forth. What is wrong with people on the west side to actually have something beneficial? The trail's going to come through when we do 38. And if you think about the big scope for the community, you know, walk downtown, you know, I struggle when I see the empty storefronts. But show me a kid that won't play in water, I'll show you a 32-year failure. And that's why I walk around. I can tell you anything and more than you'd ever want to know about what you can do with water. And I even learned a few things even after 32 years researching and going back. But in the end, if I look at just the equipment we bought, the investment we're trying to work to put into the community, the feature where Reggie's used to set, you know, heck, maybe some of the beer will come back to the surface.
And the bike's gone, right?
Yeah, the bike would be on it. Yeah, he had that's what the rendering would be. When the big,
He takes the bike with him?
well, it would be moved somewhere.
Okay.
You guys get to keep the bike. You can put it wherever you want.
But in the end, it's not wrong to do, you know, for the monies we spend from the taxpayers. Okay, and they say they'll use tax
See, I
dollars.
wasn't aware it was brought up in front of it's the city itself. I didn't know the city
Yeah,
was,
we sent out a survey.
this whole splash pad was before I ever got on council. That's where I came
We
in.
probably used the wrong word when we said
And-
splash
yeah.
pad, to be honest with you.
But
and
yeah,
we didn't go through the history of it before either.
Right.
Just
You
kind
know,
of
'cause
assumed.
I can pick off, okay, let's pick on the wastewater plant, that's 6.8 million. Let's drop two pieces of equipment that went into public works, there's 140,000. Let's drop.
and what was the total amount of the grants?
It hopefully would reach
140?
100,000.
Just between the three, there was one for 4,000, 25,000, and this one, I think we're gonna be in the area of, the max is 75. But I think because they say we were awarded a similar grant a few years ago, it's gonna be a bit less. It's gonna be in the 60s.
And they're gonna help try to get the other grant that we didn't get, correct?
CRS is, yes.
Yes.
You know, I'm pointing right here to him.
Yeah.
We missed that by not even a point.
Right, yeah, I remember that. Okay.
But my biggest take is, We've done a lot for our departments and we've supported our municipal utilities. Why can't we do something for our people now? You know, and yeah, we're gonna take it pretty hard with Highway 38. It's a big project. But the states, like any other government, they've got their mandated requirements. You will conform to them or you won't get it. And all you gotta do is buckle down, play the game, and that's what it ends up being. But I really am comfortable with giving something back to the citizens for the amount of fees we pay to City Hall. And that's where I'm primarily at. And in the end, I still love water.
All right. Is there anything else, Linda, council members? All right, Ryan? All right, Patrick, anything else to end up on with your presentation?
I am good at this point. Just please keep us posted what you need from us, how we can help going forward, and we're happy to serve you all in whatever capacity on this project or anything else going forward.
All right, thank you much, Mr. Pierce.
Thank you.
I would then call to a call for a motion to approve, table, or deny this resolution.
Motion approved.
Helm with the first to approve, and Cummins with the second.
Henry,
Yes.
Costigan,
No.
Cummins,
Yeah.
McNeil,
Yes.
Helm.
Yes.
All right, so thanks again, Patrick, Ryan, and Cole. Thank you guys for coming on.
Thank you all for your time. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Moving on. Oh, sure. So now, and that was just a resolution for the support for the project for the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant. That is not any of us spending money.
Right.
Or it being that exact project.
Correct. All right, so now on to number 2, a discussion of possible action concerning a Shermco proposal for the industrial park feeder. We have Floyd and also Owen Wyatt, I'm assuming is back there. Yes. To explain the proposal. No worries.
I can make a video.
What are you feeding?
There's one over on this side. Here's this. If you want to it's just a chair.
I guess I'll just start it off a little bit of history. When the city of Tipton originally put in this industrial park, they just basically left it and it's just done. I don't think that they thought we were going to get two really big business buildings out there. So in the time that I've been here, this has been a major concern of mine. We just got a small cable feeding that part of the industrial park. It comes up back behind the dentist office and then heads back to the north and then down that way down by Pizza Hut. And the cable is just too small. So what we've done to alleviate that is we did trench in some cable from South Street over by the sheriff's office to pick up the new load in the original Cedar Poly building. When they built that first building there on the west side of where the two buildings are. And in the process of doing that, we've taken the farthest building, the east building, we put it on the west feeder to split the load up. And the west building is now on the east feeder to do that. So what we did was we're just trying to buy some time. So this has been one of the things that's been on my radar since I've been here. So and that'll be 8 years here in about a month. Yeah, 30 days from today. I'll be here 8 years.
So just to summarize that, right now with the 15 kV switchgear lineup that's at the main power plant, there's basically two 12-470 volt feeds that come out of that. One that goes to the west, one that goes to the east, and they come together right at the industrial area where the load is arguably, higher and the most important to some people. What kind of makes that a little bit interesting is that the feeds have to take the long way around to get to that industrial area. So, and it's all, for the most part, mostly aerial, all the way over there. So if you think of a big circle, you got the power plant here, you got the industrial plant over here, and 2 loops that come around and meet up. And everything but the downtown is on that. So whenever a storm blows through and you get tree limbs falling down on the lines or squirrels that like to commit suicide, that causes blips on those lines, and you're blipping that industrial plant, that industrial area every single time something like that happens. So Floyd and I have been talking about ways that we can improve the electrical reliability of the town and try and minimize the disruption to the industrial area in particular. At your house, people aren't too concerned, generally speaking, if you lose power for a second or two during an operation like that when squirrels climb up the pole. But in an industrial area in particular, it's very critical that power is maintained as much as possible, because when you take a blip, that can disrupt processes that are in line and can cause production loss and create a bunch of trauma that could theoretically be avoided if the infrastructure were a little bit different. We've been looking at different options that we can improve the electrical reliability over there. One of which was the idea of putting in a new substation on the west side of town. But we found that ultimately to be south side. It's on the, it's on the south side. But ultimately we found that to be cost prohibitive at this point in time. So another item that was discussed was the idea of adding a feeder from our existing 15 kV switchgear lineup out to the industrial area as an express line, so that no other customers would be attached to it. So without other customers attached to it, the possibility of disruptions by, rodents and tree limbs and all that would hopefully be minimized. Another factor that we've been talking about is the fact that right now there are exactly 2 feeders that come out of that switchgear lineup. And between the 2 of them, each one is rated for roughly 4 megawatts of load, which normally, each one is rated for about 8 megawatts, I should say. And normally during your peak season, that's approaching what your peak actually is for the town. So where I'm getting at there is, if you were to lose one of those underground circuits where they exit the 15 kV gear, keeping in mind that some of that cable is, I think, around 30 years old at this point, is basically the other feeder at this point, if it were during your peak months, could not support the rest of the town load. So just to reiterate that, there's 2 circuits that feed all of the 15 kV customers. Each one, typically during your peak season, carries about 4 megawatts. They're rated for about 8 megawatts. And that is right where your peak load is. So you're kind of running a little bit of a gamble, so to speak, right now. If you were to lose one of the feeds, you might potentially have to ask customers to restrict their usage so that you could keep everything up and running. So what this project is proposing is adding, basically, there are 2 future circuits that have been designated in the switchgear that was put in 2009, 2010. And what this project is proposing is adding one of those future circuits and dedicating it as the industrial feeder. it would involve running an express line from the power plant through town out to that area. And what it does is it allows us to put the industrial facilities on their own feeder. It would all be underground, so it would no longer be subject to Sammy Squirrel and Rocky Raccoon. On that note, it would be, the intention is to design it heavily enough that should one of the other two circuits fail, that one circuit could potentially power up the entire town. So right now there's two circuits, each good for about 8 megawatts. The intention would be to design this circuit to be able to carry all 8 megawatts with no, actually carry more than that.
It's very closer. to
10 megawatts if we could. So in theory, you could put the entire town on that one circuit. So you would gain a little bit of redundancy that currently we don't have.
And the other thing about that too is that if we did decide that we wanted to put a substation out there, we could, if we happen to lose this downtown power plant, you could come back through that express feed and get back to the substation and power everything back up that way.
So that was one of our discussion points, was if we add a remote substation out there, we would want some way to tie the two together with a rather robust tie. And this express line would also dual serve that purpose. In that instance, we're trying to think a little bit future forward, so that we don't run into a circumstance again where we're undersized. As Floyd mentioned earlier, right now on one of the feeders, there is a section of underground cable that is smaller, significantly smaller than we'd like it to be. And it is not capable of sustaining large amounts of load for very long. And it is a weak spot, if you will, in the system. And they've done a little bit of reconfiguring some of the industrial loads to try and mitigate that hazard, but it does happen on a fairly often basis that when one of the industrial customers decides to add load, Floyd and myself have to take a look at the existing distribution and kind of make a decision. And this is more Floyd rather than me, but whether the existing system can stand it, or do we need to, is now the time where we have to pull the trigger and start replacing underground cables and services and make things work the way that they're supposed to work. So this proposal is basically it's a time and material not to exceed proposal to start the engineering work to determine exactly, the cable sizing and the specific route, and to design all of the distribution gear that we're planning on putting out at the industrial plant, and to basically go through the bidding process for the new switch gear as part of, or for the new feed, sorry. And then as part of the project, we'll also be reevaluating the black start logic with the generation. The existing future feeds that we have there, they're not currently incorporated into that. So if we add another feeder out there, we'd want to incorporate that into the black start logic with the generation, so that should something happen to the transmission line, the new feed will become incorporated and get powered up. So that's the short version.
I have a question for Floyd, or maybe Brian too. How this would be paid for with revenue?
Yeah, revenue bonds.
Yeah, we'd have to probably do revenue.
And we have a couple of revenue bonds that we're paying on right now that'll end. I think the next one is in the next year or so.
We just had one that ended,
Yeah.
and then the next one, I think it's in 3 years.
Yeah, so
That sounds right.
we have some flexibility to stagger our annual debt, sort of to match debt as it's falling off. So, that would be the way to go about doing this. But I wanted to ask, just, if this is dedicated for the industrial park, on the south end, and there are 60 to 70 acres left that are, it's open area plus what's developed now. And it's hard to say what's going to go in there someday, but let's say it continues sort of like what the developments are now. This, you'd say the capacity of this would handle that if the rest of those acres filled out or?
Well, that's kind of an impossible question to ask in a certain extent. The reason I say that is because you never know exactly what customer is going to come to town.
Yeah.
As an example, I work with several much larger industrial customers, and they've got some air compressors that are 4,000, 5,000 horsepower. And that's typically the load that this town sees all the time. But that being said, with the kind of industrial customers that Tipton is bringing in, a project of this size, or a feed of this size should be able to match the kind of customers or kind of industrial customers that are coming to Tipton.
Because currently, right now, Cedar Poly alone could theoretically be on their own substation transformer as a 4.5 MVA, but you probably want to size it bigger than that. You'd have to do probably like a 6.5 with a fan kit. You'd be able to get 7,500 out of it.
Yeah, I know I'm saying that to the mayor before the meeting.
So I guess, what I'm saying, or what I'm thinking is that we just don't know. But like I say, I mean, just Cedar Poly on its own, and I don't remember what size your transformer is. So I'm thinking it's a 500. But at any rate, right there's a substation class transformer right there. And then you got Vermeer.
Turn on the lights.
So it's just kind of,
Well, if you're going from 8 to 10.
Well, the existing feeds, the two existing feeds can each do about 8. This one actually, you're going to size it 800 amps, so it'll actually do way more than 10. So
we should do about, what we figure, about 12.5.
Well, that's part of the design stage.
Okay. Well then,
But theoretically, the size of customer that have come in already, this should be able to handle.
This will more than handle.
okay. And then let's say the council says, okay, tonight they say if they vote for this, by when would you have this ready reasonably to go out for a bid?
So what we were proposing, and I wrote down some dates just because I figured that question might pop up. What we would like to do is, if awarded, is start work. Basically, we probably start working on it a little heavier towards the end of March and during April, as far as dedicating engineering resources towards it, and get all the plans and specifications ready during April, and present the plans to the council during early May, so that the council can see exactly what it is that we are proposing to do. During that time period, we'd have to propose it to bidders. They would have to go out for bid, and so there'd probably be 3 to 4 weeks for the pre-bid, or where the contractors have it. What I was proposing was potentially having sending the bids out to contractors towards the end of May, having a pre-bid meeting with them around June 1st, receiving bids back around June 14th or so, give or take, and presenting them to the council on June 20th, and trying to award to a contractor to start work around July 1st. So it has to come before the council before plans and specs get sent out to the customer, and then it has to get, obviously, the council has to approve any bids that come back. So that already puts us into July pretty much before any contractor can really start work on anything. The idea that I have proposed for dates right now would be ideally, the contractor could get started on it and hopefully finish before, by the end of October. It's a little ambitious, but if everything goes smoothly, it could be done. And then in November is when we would sort of institute our cutover, so to speak, and fully try and integrate the new feed into the system.
Okay.
And the existing feed, I've talked this over with John quite a bit. And we decided that we would not wreck out the existing feed. We would keep it there just in case we ever needed it for something. Because then that way also I could separate the other businesses off there to the north and leave them on that piece and just kind of dedicate this load just to the industrial park. So that's kind of what we've been thinking amongst ourselves over in the shop.
Part of the initial design, obviously, we're going to be consulting with Floyd and John quite a bit. Because they probably know the distribution side of this town better than anybody.
All right. Any questions for Owen or Floyd about this? Is there a motion either way for this proposal?
Motion 4.
Can I vote on
Oh, yeah, that
it?
might
Should
be.
I abstain?
You should probably abstain. Yes.
I abstain.
So McNeil, yours was a motion to approve? Yeah. McNeil with the first to approve the proposal.
Second.
And Hembry with the second.
Posturing,
Yes.
Cummins abstain.
Abstain.
McNeil,
Yes.
Helm,
Yes.
Hembry.
Yes.
All right. Thank you much.
Very much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to number 3.
Thank you.
It's a resolution that would accept the Sager project, which is also known as the wastewater treatment plant improvements from 2018 as complete. Brian's?
Yeah, and this, we were holding on this until we had, for example, lien waivers in, making sure that contractors were taken care of. And so then along with this resolution, the council is authorizing the payment of the remaining $35,000 in retainage in 30 days after tonight.
All right. Nothing more?
All previously noted issues were addressed. We're good.
All right.
So you got your seal on your rolling mill? Yes. And the heater pit.
Nice.
This electric motor was?
Motion.
All right, motion to approve from Helm
Second.
and second from Cummins.
Cummins, McNeil,
Yes.
Helm,
Yes.
Hembry,
Yes.
Posturing.
Yes.
All right, so that takes us down to the reports, the mayor's report. Next week is spring break, so there may be some more kids running around all day. So be mindful of them. That's all I have. Council reports, committee, city manager, department heads. All right, then that takes us to adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn? Cummins with the first and Posturing with the second?
McNeil,
Yes.
Helm,
Yes.
Hembry,
Yes.
Posturing,
Yes.
Cummins.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.